Hi there, I'm Jessica Rose. It's great to have you here today, and in this lesson I'm going to be talking about some of the top tips and fundamentals for starting and running your own jewellery business. Running a jewellery business is a hugely rewarding experience, and if you love making jewellery and you make it quite regularly, which I imagine a lot of you will, then the natural kind of progression from that is to think about how you can turn that hobby or interest into a business and make it something that you can live off of and enjoy for years to come. So I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to help you with some of the tools and lessons that I've learned in my experience of setting up various different jewellery businesses. To tell you a little bit about myself before we begin, I first started making jewellery about 10 years ago, and very soon I kind of realised that I wanted to do it as a jewellery business. I did tons and tons of courses, training, a lot like the ones that we're doing with the online jewellery school now, and learnt about jewellery and how to make it, perfected my craft as much as one can, and then learnt about how to go about starting a business. And it's a huge learning curve, but it's a very exciting one that I'm hoping to come on with you today. So one of the first things that I would suggest for anyone thinking of starting their own jewellery business is to get out a pen and paper and actually start making a plan. So one of my first top tips is to make a plan and make it happen. So what do I mean by that? Well, the first stage is to really use a business plan model to talk through with yourself and perhaps those around you what you're going to do and different kind of stages on how you're going to do that. So we have a business plan template, and in the next video that's coming after this one, I'm going to be sharing with you step by step what I would suggest that you put in your business plan and how you actually go about creating that. But for today, what I would say is that the business plan is for you, so it's a tool to use to think about strategically what you want going forwards. Why are you starting this business? What is it that you want to be able to achieve by it? Where do you want to be in the future? Is it about making money? Is it about doing something that you love? Is it a combination of the two? Do you think that you'd like to sell in shops and galleries? Do you think you'd like to sell online? Do you have a niche market that you want to target? So all these kind of questions will come out in your business plan, and really it's just a structured way of putting things down and being able to read through it and kind of talk through with yourself so that you have an idea of what you're going to be doing each day. When you're starting any business, it can be a little bit intimidating because you wake up in the morning and think, what do I do today to make this business grow? What can I do to make it achieve the goals that I want it to be? Or it might be when you get home from work that evening. And a business plan will give you a structure, and one section of the business plan that I particularly like is called the action plan. And the action plan is where you write down specifically elements that you want to achieve and the actions that you're going to take to be able to do those. So that's my first tip, is to work on a business plan, and I am going to be helping you with that in the next video as well. So stay on the email list and we'll be able to give you information on how to access that. The next thing I want to talk about that's crucial to your jewellery business is working out who your customers are going to be and how you're going to engage them. So the first stage with this is something that we call market research, and it can be done in all kinds of ways. You can start off by just looking online through Google at similar businesses to yours. What are they doing? Who are they engaging? How are they attracting their customers? Have a look at their social media, their Facebook, their Twitter, all of those pages. See what kind of things they're posting, what kind of response they're getting. You might go onto somewhere like Etsy and look at a designer that you really admire. Look at what they're doing, what are their images like, what's their engagement like, who are their customers. These kind of things are so useful, and I remember when I first started my business I did hours of research, just trawling through the internet and looking at what was out there. And the reason to do this is not because we want to copy others, but just to learn more about the market that you're going to be in. And you can also look as you're going through websites, and it doesn't only apply to online, you can also do it in person, visiting boutiques and galleries. Also going to craft fairs is a great way to get an idea of who your competition is and also how they're attracting their customers. And you can look at things that you like about them and things that you don't like about them. For example, you might love the customer service of a particular jewellery designer, and you might think, gosh, they're really on it, they're really engaging, they're always getting back to their customers, I can see that from their posts. And that might be something you think, that's really important in my business, that's something that I want to follow through with as well. And there might be other things that you think that they're not doing so well. You might not like their designs, they might not suit the kind of character that you want to build in your business. Or you might not like their customer service, you might not like their images. There's all sorts of things, and that's really useful learning because you can use that to work out how you can be the best that you can be at what you're doing. So this stage of investigation, looking at what's out there and getting an idea is really, really crucial. Another important part of your market research is to talk to people who might be interested in buying your jewellery. Now, to start off with, that might just be friends and family, colleagues at work, people that are in your circles that you know about. Social media is so great now. It's an amazing tool that you can also use to do these kind of polls and working out what it is that people like. So talk to them, ask them what they like. If you're at the stage where you're thinking of starting your own jewellery business, you've probably been making jewellery for a little while and you may have sold 1 or 2 pieces just by wearing them and people saying, oh, I love that, can you make one for me? So those are your first initial customers, and they're the people that you really want to engage with, work out what is it they liked about your jewellery, why did they buy from you, what would encourage them to buy again. This information is so important and will help you with the first stage. The reason why it's so important is once you know who your customers are and you've got an idea of what they're about, then you can start thinking how to reach them and how to engage them. For example, if you know that your customers don't use the internet very much, then you might want to focus on offline sales, such as getting into a local shop, a local boutique, or selling through craft fairs and markets. Or if you know that your target audience is in a very specific location, you can use online services such as Facebook ads to target them very specifically. So there's all different kind of things that you can do once you know about your customer. But when you're first starting out, it's really crucial to learn those things about your customers so that you know who they are and how to reach them. My next point goes along quite nicely with the one before, and this is working out what your unique selling point is, sometimes called your USP. Now, this is something that makes you different and makes you stand out from every other jewellery designer out there. And this can be a little bit scary for people because they think, oh my gosh, I need to think of something amazing and incredible that's never been done before. And that's not what we mean by this. What's meant by the USP is that it's something that differentiates you, that you're really good at. And it's not something you need to decide at the very beginning. Some people have a very clear USP and they know, I use recycled materials and that's the thing that defines me and stands me out. Or it might be that they're based in a specific area that's quite remote and there aren't other jewellery designers there, so they're the one go-to person. Those USPs are kind of obvious and can be worked on straight away. If you don't know your USP, what I would suggest doing is just start your business anyway and just experiment, try things out, work with customers, make your initial designs, sell, and once you've got those first sales through the door, you'll be able to get that valuable feedback from your customers and they'll start telling you, do you know what, I really like this about what you do. I really love the materials you use, or I really love these specific colours that you're always bringing out, or I love the fact that you package it in this particular way. When you start to get that feedback, it kind of helps you to realise what it is that makes you different. So one of my favourite tricks is not working out your own USP. If you're struggling with it, ask your customers. They will know what makes you different because they're the ones that saw it and wanted to engage with you. So working on your USP, and once you know what it is that makes you stand out, you can really focus on that and build your brand around that idea. A good example of this is the London Jewellery School, which is one of the businesses that I started. And we started doing jewellery making lessons. And to begin with, I wasn't entirely sure what was different about us. I knew we were in London and there weren't many in London at the time. So that was one key geographical differentiation, but I wasn't entirely sure how we were going to be different. People were coming on the classes and they loved them, and they'd always say, do you know what, this is such a friendly, welcoming environment, I love it, you know, I love the fact that I can make jewellery, but on top of that it's just so nice and homely and engaging, and everyone can do it. And very soon it became clear that our motto and our tagline was everyone can make jewellery. And it was very much that we were about opening up that education to anyone, anywhere. So that's a really nice kind of example of how you can kind of build your USP and work it out, and then build your brand off of that, because we've gone on to rely on that motto as a foundation of the business going forwards, and that applies to any business. So a good little exercise to do would be to have a look around at businesses that you admire. They don't have to just be jewellery businesses, anyone's. Look at their tagline, look at what they stand for, try and work out their USP, and that might give you some ideas about what will make you stand out in the future too. It's a super sunny day here in London. I hope you can see all the lovely sunshine that's coming in, taking advantage of it because we don't get it all the time. Great, so my next tip is to keep things strictly business. Now, this is really important when you're starting a jewellery business specifically, because if you've been making jewellery for a while and you love it, or even if you haven't started yet but you think it's something that you'd love to do, then you'll be moving from a hobby and an interest into a business. So it's important that you change your mindset with that, so that the way that you think about it is professional and is strategic, so that you can build something that's sustainable and going to last. So obviously when you're working as a hobby, you can spend as much as you like on your silver, on your beads, on your tools, and not think too much about the consequences of that. With a business, it's really important to work out before you buy something if it's going to have an effect on your sales at the end. So for example, if you see this gorgeous set of gemstones, instead of just buying them because you love them, and I can completely relate to this because I do it all the time, it's thinking about, okay, what can I make from that? How much markup can I add after I've made it? And we'll be talking about pricing a bit later on. And just making sure that when you do buy things, that it's an investment for your business and that it's going to make a logical connection later down the line. Because one of the easiest things to do in a jewellery business is to overspend and not be able to make it back. So that's just something to think about, is just being a little bit careful with the finances, especially if you're switching from a hobby into a business. Another thing on the finances is to make sure that you keep a track of all of the money coming in and all of the money going out of your business. So to begin with, that might look like when you're selling pieces that you give your customer a receipt so that you have a record of what you've sold, and that needs to be stored and kept. And you also need to have a record of everything that you spend. So you need to keep receipts on all of the expenses for your business. And that's going to be really important for your annual tax return. Now, in the UK, you'll need to submit accounts once a year. Whether you're registered as a business or whether you're a sole trader, it will look a little bit different. But most businesses start off as a sole trader, and you'll do an annual self-assessment tax return where you tell the government what you've spent and what you've earned, and there will be taxes to pay on a certain amount of profit. So you can find out more about that by visiting the HMRC website, and they have tons of information on everything you need to know and are really helpful with how to do this. But the key thing when you're first starting out is to A, register with them as a business, as a sole trader, and B, to keep a track of all of your finances going in and out. That way, either you or an accountant at the end of the year can look at those and reconcile them and work out what needs to be paid. And it's also a great way, obviously, of seeing what's happening in your business. Is it being successful? Are you making a profit? Are you overspending? And what do you need to adjust in order to move forward positively? One of my favourite tips I always share is that jewellery is such a gorgeous and visual thing that we need to have amazing photographs. So whether you're selling online, which I think most people will be nowadays, or at stalls, fairs, business cards, anywhere that your business is represented, you want to have really gorgeous imagery, because that's what sells your jewellery. So obviously people will see the actual jewellery in real life if they're coming to a store or boutique. But if you're selling online, they never get to see that, not until they've actually purchased it and completed the transaction. So your images are so important. And there's a few things that you can do to make sure that you get lovely images. One is to try and be consistent. So if you use certain backgrounds to kind of keep those going or keep a theme. For example, I use a lot of wood and sometimes slate and stone, kind of natural materials in my imagery, and that gives like a nice theme running through the website, business cards, all of those areas. It's a really good skill to be able to learn to photograph jewellery on a white background. It's not easily done, so it does take time and investment in terms of training and learning how to do that. If you're just starting out and you're not good at getting those amazing photographs that you so want, then it's worth investing in a professional photographer to do them for you. And it's normally not too expensive to get, say, 10 images of your work done. And if you were to get 10, as an example, professional images done, you could use those same images on your website, on any business cards or promotional material you get printed. You can use them on your social media pages. So I think they're really worth the investment for the money if you can afford it, and if you know someone, then that's even better. But longer term, it's great skill as a jeweller to be able to take pictures of your own work. It's taken me a few years to learn, but now that I feel quite confident with it, it's a really creative process that I enjoy doing as part of my business. So hopefully that's something you'll be able to engage with too.